Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob from all those Jay and Silent Bob type pictures, man. And I'm breaking the silence to tell you that you're listening to the Buff and the Blazer podcast with Drew and Toddo. Enjoy the show, kids.
Hey, Toddo.
What's going on?
We got a podcast, The Buff and the Blazer. If I was a listener, where would I go to find more?
You can check us out on our website, thebuffandtheblazer.com. Drew over there writes a article that goes along with every single episode.
You can find all kinds of little extras on the articles, and you can listen to the podcast right there. Also, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, we're on Twitter at Buff and Blazer. Follow us there.
Get those clicks, people.
The Buff and the Blazer.
Welcome to episode 62 of the Buff and the Blazer podcast, the show where we break down, discuss movies, old movies, new movies, everything in between. I'm Drew, and as always, I'm here with my good buddy, Mr. L. Toddo.
What's going on, man?
What's up, dude? Another one?
Snow.
Yeah, right? I don't understand. I thought we were well into spring, and now we got the remnants of a winter, I guess.
Well, March is usually the wettest month where I'm at, but it's usually mostly rain, but we got snow this time.
So yeah, you got the snow, I got the rain. But it's kind of, we get a little bit of that in this movie that we're talking about this week. We got Nomadland, and it's gotten a lot of buzz. We finally got to it on this episode, and it's directed by Chloe Zhao, and it stars Frances McDormand, who's, an Academy Award winner, and I think it's easy to say
she won that for, what was it? Billboards, or what's that movie called? Two Billboards or something?
Yeah, 3 billboards.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Yeah, that one's pretty, she's just really good in everything she's in. But let's dive into what you thought about this film. Eva and I both saw it this last week, so it's pretty fresh. But what did you think?
So there's a few different things. Like, I really enjoyed all the acting and the landscape aspect of it, because a fair amount of the landscape that she's traveling through I'm pretty familiar with. And
right.
Also, it kind of really captures the vastness of, like, the American West, like how empty spots are, which I think a lot of people don't really realize.
Right.
And then there's like this movie hit on a bunch of different levels, right? So there's like this looming issue, not looming, but really just like active issue in the country with old people that kind of like aren't financially secure enough to have the quote unquote American dream type of retirement.
Right.
And how that's forcing a lot of people to make some fairly tough decisions. And I kind of liked on this movie how it was kind of like ambiguous on the message side.
Yeah.
Like, it was very down the line, like showing the dark side and the positive of this, kind of lifestyle that she not really chooses, but is kind of forced into from a financial perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
And it deals with like the later stages of life that I think a lot of people are like terrified about. Like, terrified that they're going to be old and not have anybody or whatever it may be, right? Not have any money. And I thought it was a pretty cool movie with very little kind of direct messaging from a dialogue standpoint. It's all subtext, and it's all like kind of up to interpretation of the viewer.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was a very different style of movie in terms of like, the constructions that we normally deal with. Hero stories and, conflict, protagonist, antagonist, all that. It was very different from all that. So I really enjoyed that aspect. And, I thought it was pretty good, man. It was definitely, I thought, maybe the most artsy movie we've done so far.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Well, what about you?
So for me, I don't think you're wrong. I think this film does have a lot of artistic qualities to it. But I think film is also one of the more grounded real world movies we've done.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say for sure. And like you said, I think something that sticks out immediately is it does avoid. So it's an interesting concept. This film is based off of a book. It's based off of a novel by Jessica Bruder. And the novel, I don't even know if you could call it a novel. It's nonfiction. So she actually did take the stories of these people that were living post-recession, right in the recession, and being forced to live this kind of new nomadic lifestyle and dealing with financial and economic hardship at the same time. So it's based off of that, but this story is still, it's drama, it's fictional, and it's based off of that material. But I think the material shows up completely in this film, and it makes it feel really grounded and really real world. But the other thing that you mentioned that stuck out to me was that it doesn't really have a central message. But I think related to that, the film doesn't even really have a clear-cut storyline. It's not like A to B to C.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the movie's all about the journey in between A and C. That's what the film is. It doesn't have like a beginning. It has somewhat of a beginning, but it doesn't have like a clear-cut, this is the resolution from the beginning. And the other thing that was really cool to me is that while it doesn't have a clear-cut central message, there's a bunch of different themes in this movie that anyone could pick out. So like you said, there's the theme of old age, and there's the theme of like economics and hardship. There's the theme of like, what is living a normal lifestyle? Is it like living in a home with four walls, or is it living in your van? Yeah. What is home? But what stuck out to me with Fern's story, who Frances McDermott plays, is I think there's a real key theme of loss too that shows up in this film. And I think a lot of the film has to do with not only Fern's journey through loss, but that also relates to her like physical journey across the country in her van. Mm. And to me, that was kind of cool. And the fact that you spend so much time with her, it cuts out the need for so much dialogue. Like there's not a ton of dialogue in this movie, but just from like the visual acting cues from Frances McDermott, all like everything stems from her acting. You're able to get out like the emotion she's feeling and really connect with her. And I thought that's what made this movie really different. And I thought it was really powerful.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've harped on this on other podcasts before, talking about sedentism and nomadism, and it's really, even on like a really, it's kind of the wrong word, but more of like a archaic level for human nature.
Yeah.
There's definitely like two different types of folk.
Yeah.
And she kind of makes the transition from one to the other in this.
Right.
And likes that. Right?
Yeah. And something that we've mentioned before too, that you've brought up a bunch of times, is that it's not so much like right way to do thing, wrong way to do thing. It's just different way of doing something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you definitely get that theme in this film too. And they hit on it directly at some point, where there's a scene in the store where someone's like, "Are you homeless?" And there's this whole line between like being a nomad and living in your van versus being homeless. Yeah. And what does that even mean?
Yeah.
But I thought it was just a really cool way of being able to closely follow a character and get the ins and outs of this kind of lifestyle, even though that this story is somewhat fictional, based off of like real events or real experiences. That was really powerful.
It is really powerful, and it really doesn't make an argument saying this way is right and that way is wrong, or vice versa.
Right.
Which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And it kind of highlights the social perspective of this type of lifestyle, and how the sedentized folk, that we fall into that category, how in America, particularly, that type of lifestyle is almost like frowned upon.
Yeah.
And looked at as like, oh, you're homeless, you're part of that sect of society now, almost like a caste or whatever.
Yeah.
And it didn't glorify it, right? It showed how rough that kind of lifestyle is, but it also showed like how kind of like rewarding that lifestyle can be. But it just really just rode right down the middle, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, like it could be easy to make a film like this and totally glorify the lifestyle and be like, this is how you should be doing things because it works for these people and look at how awesome it is. You never get that. But like you said, I also agree with you how it does give you the really nice moments of meeting people that are in your boat, traveling like that. But then at the same time, it does show how hard it is. Like you would imagine living in your van, traveling, and not really having a place to stay for a particularly long period of time. But yeah, you never get the sense that they're trying to sway you in one direction or the other. And the fact that you're able to stay within that story and just focus on the journey of it, that's what's like, I think, the strength of this film.
Yeah, and the way that it totally focuses on how hard it is to live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
But there's like these little moments where it's all worth it.
Right.
Like I don't know how much we want to get into the story, but Swanky's whole little moment that she has with the swallows, right?
Yeah.
Just little things like that. I really like that it highlighted those little bits of it in between all the hardship, because it could be viewed as a pretty downer of a movie, right?
Yeah.
From start to finish, and showing, and some people won't understand that, right?
Yeah.
Even the shots of her just looking out at the desert once everybody has left their gathering, right? Their snowbird gathering thing that they got going on.
Right.
Just her standing there and looking out at the desert. There's a lot of people that have no idea how that feels.
Yeah.
Being in a landscape that's just barren and empty and you're the only person there. And some could look at it as lonely or whatever, but there's like a beauty in there that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, and I think the way it comes across in the film too, it's like there's a beauty, but also like a solitude in it.
Mm-hmm.
Of being like there in a vast landscape, and you're like the size of a speck, and being able to take all that in. Like you get that from some of the very first shots of the film when she's driving through like the desert landscape with the snow.
When she's leaving Nevada, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. With like you got the cactus and then the snow on the ground, and it's just her van on that 2-lane road. Like that is some really gorgeous cinematography, but it also it pays homage to the story they're trying to tell too.
Have you ever driven across anywhere in Nevada, like central Nevada?
No, not by myself.
Dude. It's crazy how empty that state is.
So that's like pretty accurate, all those shots they were given.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's interesting. So I'm looking at where Empire is, the town that she comes from.
Yeah.
And it's way up there, north of Reno. But I've driven through a good chunk of Nevada before, like the whole west side from Reno all the way down to Vegas. And it's just, there's just nothing there, dude.
Yeah.
There's like the occasional whorehouse kind of, bunny ranch thing along the highway, and then nothing for 100 miles. It's such a trip.
I love the contrast too. Anytime you get the snow, like the winter with the desert, there's just something really cool about that visually.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool way to open the film. But going back to what you said about like the beauty, not just with the visual landscapes too, but they're like the moments in this film. I'm talking about when she first gets to, I forget the name of that I guess, what do you call it? Like that meeting place where all of the nomads come and gather for just a little period of time, and everyone's sort of set up there. Do you remember?
Outside Quartzsite, Arizona?
Yeah, right.
And that's a very real thing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like there's hundreds, if not thousands, of RVs in Quartzsite every winter.
Yeah, but like I love the shots where you just get her walking and she's passing all of these little groups, around a fire or something, and they're like, "Hey, come hang out." She's like, "No, I'm just taking a walk," and then you get to see each little cluster of people just hanging out there.
Yeah,
moments like that too were just something really beautiful about them. And
even the contrast though of like the rich folk playing the nomad game.
Oh
with the
yeah,
super big RVs, and it's totally just like a traveling house for them.
Yeah,
and when they have that moment when they go in there, and
yeah,
not one thing is ever said about the economic disparity in that scene.
No,
but you feel it. They don't ever address it dialogue-wise between the characters.
No, and I love how they even kind of make a light moment of it where she gets in the driver's seat and she's like, "Where do we go? Where are we off to?"
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really hard to do, and she captured it so well. Like, this film could easily tempt you to go in one of those directions and hammer down a message, but they just stay in the lane of like following Fern, and I think that's where the strength lies.
Yeah.
So in the article I wrote, I kind of played up the fact that it has a very documentarian type quality to it, even though documentaries in themselves, like when they try to play the card, like they're, not trying to convey a message or anything, they're trying to be somewhat, what you see is what you get, like everything's intentional in a documentary. But this film, you get that vibe, at least with like the camera, of being able to follow Fern really closely. And anytime you get those scenes with her in her van, and you get to feel like how cramped it is in there, but that's like her home, like getting to see scenes of her eating soup off her stove or her hot plate in the van, little things like that I think add to not only her character, but the journey her character's on, and that struggle between like trying to get over her grief, but also trying to adapt her way of life and almost like coming to peace with it, I'd say.
And eventually choosing it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, spoiler-wise, where are we at? I mean, this movie's been out quite a while. It came out last year.
Yeah, I say we could just go for it. And the fact that there isn't like huge plot points or anything, there's not a whole ton we can spoil.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I think we're fine to talk about like specific moments and stuff. So just
cool.
Light warning, if you really want to go in cold, maybe skip to the end.
I'll say this, anything that we reveal in this isn't going to change how you view the movie.
Right.
Because it's not really, there's so much up to interpretation. Basically, the entire movie's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
If you're following the main storyline of Francis' character, you're probably missing most of the point. In my opinion.
If you're looking to see if the villain dies at the end, it's the wrong movie. The wrong movie for you.
You're looking for a sequel.
Oh gosh. But yeah, so like I'm just trying to think in terms of tackling story with this. Where do we want to start? So we talked about like the general idea of the story. I guess we could talk about the circumstances of her story. So like she was in a marriage with someone that worked in a mine, I guess, a mining town, would you call it?
It's like a gypsum mine for drywall.
Yeah, and the recession happens and the town goes under.
The plant closes, and basically the plant was the entire economic lifeblood of the town.
Yeah. And so while that's happening, her husband gets sick and eventually passes away. And that kind of leaves Fern without her husband, without a home, and without any source of income, to say the least. So she's kind of left working. It seems like she does her Amazon gig, and that pretty much funds her year, it seems like, or a good chunk of it.
That's like a Christmas Amazon working program where they basically, this is probably a real thing, I imagine.
Yeah.
They let people park there.
Mm-hmm.
Or they have a deal with like a local campground or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
People come in and work the holiday season, and then that's it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the gist of like what sets Fern off on her nomadic journey, I guess. And then everything after that is sort of just kind of shadowing her like really closely and being able to follow her through each town that or not even town, each
landscape, I would say.
Yeah, landscape. And then meeting places for people that are in her situation too. I have to say this too, like before I forget, because I know I will. I think this is one of the first films where I wasn't sure if the people on screen were actors or not.
Good call. Yeah,
and
I was going to say the
not
same
in a
thing.
bad way either.
Yeah.
In like a really, like this film skirts the line of being fiction and nonfiction so well.
Yeah.
And like Swanky is one of the characters I'm talking about particularly. I'm like, is she an actress or is she like legit? Is this who she is? And so she's credited as being Swanky, which is also her character name. But all it says in her bio is Swanky is an actress known for Nomadland. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she's actually like an actress or it's just her.
She has no credits on IMDb besides this.
Right.
So very likely that's her.
Yeah, okay.
And even her picture on IMDb looks like the inside of a van, potentially.
Yeah, it does. So, I mean, it could be a mixture of like actors, very, very thin cast of actors with real people.
Yeah, so I'll say this about the quartzite portion. That rock shop, T-Rocks, that she works at, I've bought hundreds of pounds of rock from there
Really?
in my life. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I know that place super well, and they absolutely filmed there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the whole kind of gathering situation, I guarantee they filmed it there, and I guarantee tons of those people
We're real.
were just around,
Yeah.
and probably paid extras to be in the film.
Wow. Okay. See, that's what I was wondering, and it seems to be the case. So yeah, it is kind of a cool mixture of like telling a narrative mixed in with the real world. I think that's what makes this film so authentic in a way.
Yeah, it's like a fictional story that focuses on nonfiction, real themes that are
Yeah.
speaking directly to the current situation for a lot of people.
Yeah, that takes place within the real world in real settings with non-actors, with real people. And I
Yeah.
can't remember the last film, if at all, that did that, at least this well anyway, off the
I
top of my
can't.
head.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Almost everything we do that's very message in the real world based is somewhat historical.
Yeah, well, see, if you look at the rest of the cast list, every one of these people, that's just that's their name.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are all just, I mean, real people. They're not actors, which is kind of bizarre. But it works really well. Like when they're on camera, I guess that's what's so hard about it is they're just being them. In the case of Swanky, at least, she's probably like the one we get the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know if a lot of this was scripted, like Fern's interactions with like Swanky, let's say, or if it was just kind of improvised.
Huh.
I don't know.
I imagine the dialogue between the only other big name actor, Dave,
Oh, right. That's
and David Strathairn.
yeah,
I bet their dialogue is scripted. And
Right.
maybe some with Linda and Swanky, but I was thinking the Bob Wells guy, the kind of like Nomad Messiah, right?
yeah.
Do you think that's his regular spiel?
After seeing this,
The whole tyranny of the dollar thing and stuff?
I could see that being a legit thing.
Me too.
I could totally see that being legit. And I buy him too. Like I felt like he was actually talking to her not as Fern but as Francis almost. I don't know. That's really weird.
It's interesting, man, because
Yeah.
he speaks a little bit more to what I see the younger crowd of the van life nomad folk going after. Like they really just don't want to be a slave to a job, which I get 100%.
Yeah.
And then there's also this other aspect of the older crowd of folk that are doing this that are basically forced into it, but then find they like it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So he's kind of playing both sides of it because there's a huge movement of the van life and people living out of their cars and stuff on YouTube and pointing out how cheap it is.
Yeah.
And they almost like glorify it too. I don't know. I guess it all depends on what you want to do
Right.
or what you want.
Yeah, and then all the people that are there when they have their kind of like their share circle around the fire, everyone kind of gives their story. Like they either lost someone or they lost their job or they wanted a new lifestyle. But I think it all kind of goes back to like how there's a bunch of different themes. Like I said, loss, I think in this film is quite a big one. Economic or personal loss. And while the story is about Francis's character, Fern, it's sort of, you get to feel her sense of like belonging, even though she has a lot of interaction with Swanky, not a whole lot of other people.
Linda May.
Yeah, Linda is another one. What's the name of David's character in this film?
Dave.
Strathairn. Is it just Dave? Okay. All right. Well, that's easy. But yeah, Dave too. It's like they all kind of connect on that level of like they all lost something but at the same time, they're not trying to. It's like they're not trying to fix anything. They're almost there to like find a new way of doing things, I guess. That's not necessarily trying to fix something that happened to them. Even though the economic hardship is there, it's almost like they're just they're tired of the way things were and they want a new way of doing something.
Well, and it's also one of those things, like if you're going to play the American game, the debt and the American dream game, where you work your balls off and go into a bunch of debt to get a house and new car every 10 years.
Yeah.
If you're going to play that game, you kind of need to ride it out to the end, because if it collapses midway,
right,
or towards the end like it did for a lot of people, then you're basically screwed, because you need the 30 years, right?
Yeah.
To pay off that house. You need the full life of Social Security or you need to make it to the end of Social Security for it to be beneficial, right?
Yeah.
And Linda talks about it. She's like, I was 61 when my husband passed away or whatever.
Right.
And I went to Social Security and it was like $500 a month. Like, how the hell am I going to live on that, you know?
Yeah.
So it speaks to a bunch of things that a lot of old people are dealing with on a bunch of different levels. And like Dave's character, he's kind of like that lost guy who doesn't seem to, because he like works at he's like a docent at that like national park in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Right? So
At
he
least for
like
part of the
obviously
time.
has his shit together.
Yeah.
And he's like a pseudo paleontologist or something.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just kind of represents like that I just got to move mentality.
Yeah.
And then he gets like purpose later with his grandson being born and stuff. I don't know. It's just, it hits on so many levels for that like early 60s crowd of folk.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting too. So like on the surface, you could take this film and be like, this film is for people nearing the end of their road in this life. But I never got that sense watching this movie. I felt like this movie spoke to me too as someone like in their 30s. And I don't know if that has more to say about me than it does my generation or just whether or not that's what the film is doing. Like I feel like anyone could sit down and watch this film and get something out of it, regardless of how old you are.
Well, that's because the financial conditions that a lot of these people are getting run up against later in life, we're getting run up against it in our late 20s and early 30s, right?
Yeah,
It's like a lot of people could never fathom saving the amount of money that it takes to buy a house to put down these days.
Yeah.
Right? And buying a van and tricking it out and living that lifestyle is, from just like a pragmatic standpoint, much more feasible for a lot of people our age.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know, it has this weird kind of way of highlighting that lifestyle being really hard on older people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the older people do still find peace in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
While they were forced into it, a lot of people our age are looking at that lifestyle as an option. Like, I know a dude who's married and him and his wife both work full time, but they've been doing the van life thing for a while.
Oh, wow.
And they go all over the place.
Oh, cool.
And they love it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I don't know.
It's
There needs to be like a law in the United States, because so many people are going towards this type of lifestyle, and a lot of it is technically criminal, right? Like sleeping in parking lots and stuff.
yeah.
So there needs to be like a Nomadland inspired bill to make van life more legal.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they even mention in the film, like they're sure that they get it across that like BLM land. That's like,
Oh, dude.
that's where we
14
can stay.
days, same spot.
Yeah.
All the times that I've lived out of my truck, not far from Quartzsite, like within 30 miles of there. Mine was always for working, and I would stay in the truck because I could make way more money off of the per diem.
Yeah.
But it's not a very difficult lifestyle when you're young, I'll say that. Like, it's pretty damn easy to live out of a vehicle.
Yeah.
And if you got some BLM land anywhere near you, out west, we're kind of lucky. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's totally legal to live on BLM land for same spot for 14 days. Then you got to move like 100 yards, and that's those stipulations differ a little bit per district, but
Yeah.
it's totally an option. You don't have to pay tax. You pay taxes on BLM land just in your normal taxes. So
Yeah, for sure. Like if there was
PSA for everybody.
if there was ever a film that I'd want to like record people watching it and then getting their reaction afterwards and then like breaking that down by age group, this would be so interesting. Like
Right?
you'd have like people in their 60s and 70s like going, yeah, I mean, I could totally see how this is where things are going for me. And then people like in their middle age, maybe you and my age, like going, let's go get in the van. Let's try this out.
Right?
And then like 9-year-olds, they're like, I better start investing into a 401k. Like,
Yeah, right. It hits on all these different levels. Like it's terrifying for some older folks. I don't think it's terribly appealing for a lot of people.
yeah, I don't think so.
But yeah, for our age, I could see this sparking like a whole new
like a movement.
couple thousand people like
Yeah.
buying. I mean, I know a ton of people. I've thought about it a bunch.
Yeah.
Before I bought a house, I've thought about it. Or the off-grid thing. It's kind of in the same vein.
Or definitely like in our profession. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like this hybrid
There's a
lifestyle.
bunch of nomads in our
Yeah.
profession, man.
For sure. So yeah, it stuck out to me in a bunch of different ways. Like it was really, really powerful.
So we kind of jumped a bunch between character and story, but that's kind of how it is.
Yeah, that's how it's set up. But we can get into like the specifics of the performances, I think. And I mean, particularly Frances McDermott in the role.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
man, there's something about her. And I feel like you can only do this with certain actors, but you notice how close the camera is on her in almost every shot.
Well, there's a lot of intimate,
Yeah.
up in the van shots.
Like you're up in the van, but even when she's outside, you're up in her face.
Yeah.
But I think the lack of dialogue really pushes that style of filmmaking because you have to pick up on her visual cues. Otherwise, you don't get anything. And the way she conveys her emotion, I don't know how she does it so well, but it's almost like you can read her mind in certain scenes.
The whole movie, man.
Yeah.
You can, it comes across her entire inner struggle that she's going through.
Right.
It comes across her face the whole time. Like, even those scenes where, like, she's talking with people that she knows in the grocery store that
Yeah.
are, like, offering her help. And she has this, like, kind of deep pride that she's going to do it herself,
Yeah.
That's
Like-
just really powerful, man.
Yeah, like, or when she's in her van looking at photos, like
Yeah.
you can see the emotion on her face there. But even when she's just outside, not necessarily looking at like a sunset or something, but when she's just walking and the camera's on her face, like you can tell how much she has on her mind and how much it's kind of like weighing on her.
Yeah.
And it's just a look. Like it's not even anything more than that. She has so much conveyed in like that look. I mean, I could totally see her getting a nod for this film.
oh, yeah.
Best Actress Award for sure. Like again.
And I touched on it a little bit earlier, but like when I said a lot of people won't understand what being in a landscape like that does to you,
Yeah.
when you're just standing in it and looking out at the vastness, you can tell that she spent a lot of time out there.
Yeah.
Because that look that she's conveying, because sometimes it's not like she's overly joyed and looking out at the landscape because she has all this inner kind of stress going on.
Yeah.
But this kind of like reprieve that just gazing out into this landscape does for you that you can't
Right.
really put into words, in my
Yeah.
opinion. She conveys that across in her face,
Yeah.
alongside all of like the hardship and the struggle that's going on there too.
Yeah, it's like it's a weird mixture of it's a struggle living that lifestyle, but it's also like healing. It's healing her personal anguish that was spurred about like in the beginning. So it's just a really beautifully, it's not even a complex story, it's just a very real world story.
Yeah.
And I love that about this film and her performance. I'm just trying to think like and the other thing I really like too is you get to see like very intimately what her life is like in her van. And we were talking about like the poop scenes.
Ooh.
Like
wicked poop.
yeah, it's pretty tough. But it
That's
doesn't
a part
shy
of
away
that
from
lifestyle, man.
Yeah.
I've always been a poop outside kind of guy. So the blowing it out in the bucket next to your bed is kind of rough, in my opinion. Especially in the desert, man. You're in the desert. There's nothing but places to poop.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I love that they don't try and sell you on the beauty of, like, this is how you should be living your life. Yeah, just moments like that I think really added to her performance. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had her live out of her van while filming this movie. It just has some quality about it like that.
Yeah.
Where they're like, we'll follow you.
There's even a scene where, like, when she goes to visit Dave.
Right.
When she can't sleep in the house, right?
Right, yeah.
She has to go back out and sleep in her van.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, there's something about, because, like, when you sleep in a vehicle, you still kind of get that feeling of camping.
Yeah.
It's not like you're fully indoors. There's something different about it. And I noticed this, I always sleep way better in camping scenarios.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, like, that, a little subtle thing like that they put in the movie is something that a lot of people probably experience.
Yeah. And again, too, that goes back to this whole idea of, like, home is what you make it. It's like, what does it mean to be home or have a home? And is it like 4 walls or is it your van? What is that? And
is it a place or is it,
right?
Is it a place during a specific time of year, which is much more of the nomad philosophy?
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Right.
Going way back. Like, it's like, oh, you travel to this area in this time of year because that's what you do then,
Yeah.
And that lifestyle is cool. And it's interesting to show, like, okay, when you think of that lifestyle, you always think of, like, maybe in almost like a prehistoric context or a technologically less advanced context, like electricity, things like that. And you think of people, like, traveling to certain pastures or to certain forests at the certain time of the year to collect this and then keep moving on. In the modern sense, it's traveling to these places to get work at specific times of the year.
Yeah.
Right? So she does her Amazon stint somewhere outside of Reno, probably.
Yeah.
And then she does her, like, Quartzsite T-Rocks stint in the January, February
Yeah.
time of year. And then she, like, heads to the Badlands in South Dakota, which
Yep.
is quite the trek. I mean, that's like a completely diagonal across the entire West. And then I don't know where the last place, the restaurant she works in, is that somewhere in, like, the Southern Plains?
Yeah, I wasn't sure myself.
Like Oklahoma or Texas or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Nebraska, Kansas, something like that?
Yeah. Just on like a funny side note thing, like a question for you. Did they get the, like, traveling aspect of this movie right? To your like knowledge?
Yeah.
In terms of,
I mean,
like,
they absolutely filmed in those locations.
yeah. Like,
So
I definitely got the sense that she was traveling east to west,
Well,
more or less.
she's traveling, like, south initially.
Oh, okay.
From when she's going from Nevada to Quartzsite.
Yeah.
It's like southeast-ish, you
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
But I don't know where the end is, right? Is the end on the or not the end, but where Dave lives, is that the California coast? It
Yeah.
must be.
Yeah, that was, like, totally. I think she was on, like, PCH right there.
Yeah, like redwoods and stuff. But I will say, like, when she's traveling on that, she was going south down the coast.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I don't know, but they definitely put the time into the geography of this.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, it's pretty important. But yeah, and then she ends back. It's kind of beautiful, and then it wraps up, like, kind of where it began. She goes back and revisits what we take to be her old home.
Yeah, this little rundown town in the middle of Nevada, or the northwest corner of Nevada.
So, like, while it doesn't have, the traditional storyline, you do get some sense of closure, I think, but it's still left open enough to where there's some interpretation there. But it's all kind of like a beautiful journey you're on with Fern as the main character.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really liked a lot of things about this movie.
It was really different.
Yeah, very different. Do we want to talk a little bit about David Strathairn? He was like, he's very familiar to me. As soon as I saw him, I'm like, I know that guy's an actor, and I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, and I just can't remember what. But then I look at his filmography, and I'm like, oh yeah, he was like one of the guys in Lincoln. He was like one of the senators, and
I've seen him in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's like a kids movie
that he was in
that I want to know.
Oh.
Because it's bugging me.
Okay.
I want to say it's like Hook or something. Is he in Hook?
Not that I remember. Kids movie, huh?
Yeah, from the like 90s. One of like our childhood movies.
Huh.
I don't know. I think he's got a huge freaking list of stuff that he's been in.
He's like one of those guys that you immediately recognize him because he's been in everything. It's just you can't pinpoint where he's been. Yeah, I'm looking. I don't know, man. Oh, yeah, he was in A League of Their Own, too.
That's
right.
what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Because I watched that movie a bunch as a kid.
That's another great movie, too. So, yeah, he's been all over, and he has, like, a huge career as an actor. It was kind of cool to see him in this role. And then him playing off of Francis, I loved anytime they were together because there's kind of like this push-pull kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he's, like, trying to make his way into her life, and she's very resistant. And then they finally kind of meet in the middle, and they're like, okay, we'll hang out, kind of commiserate together. But I don't know. Her relationship with a lot of the people in this movie, there's like beauty in each one of those relationships. Like her and David, her and Swanky.
Yeah, and it's not just like with her and Dave, it's not like a classic little love story.
Yeah,
right?
It's not a romance.
It's not a romance. It's like, because she kind of has the option to start over, so to speak.
Yeah.
In the sedentary lifestyle.
Right.
But chooses the van, you know?
Yep.
Which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is super cool. But yeah, any other thoughts you had on our cast list, I guess?
I thought Swanky's little speech about how she wants to die.
Oh, yeah.
Was extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
When she talked about, I'm not going back into a hospital. I'm not spending one more night in a hospital.
Right.
I'm doing things my way. That's kind of empowering, I think.
Yeah, for sure. She's another, like, really great, I don't even know if you can call it a performance. It seems like maybe, but just whatever it was that she gave.
Yeah.
Whether it be real or not.
Yeah.
I feel that is going to hit with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And what each of these performances does is they really get you to empathize with everything that they're feeling and going through, because all of these struggles are very human and very close to home for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's where the power lies in this movie, I think, is it's so close to home for a lot of people. And
I really like that her character highlights that choosing the way you live out the end of your life is absolutely your choice still.
Yeah.
And you can choose to be sad and like in a house or whatever, in a hospital bed, or you can reflect on like the whole swallows thing.
Right.
Just a simple moment like that you can cherish, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the cool thing is
really powerful.
The cool thing is you absolutely feel like that's the right choice for Swanky.
Yeah.
And it may not necessarily be the right choice for you or for any other person in the film, but you definitely get the sense that it's right for Swanky.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of cool. They leave that open for whoever wants to take it.
And I think it kind of crosses over with Fern, because she can choose to kind of start over and let go of her husband, so to speak.
Yeah.
Or she can kind of maintain that relationship she has with him.
Right.
Which is kind of in this lifestyle now that she's built.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Or am I reading too much into that?
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think it seems like you're going like, crazy deep into it, but that I think is the point of all this.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough there for you to do that and be absolutely correct in your interpretation.
It's almost like there's not one word that shouldn't be there in the movie.
Yeah.
There's not one word too little and not one too many.
Right.
Like perfect.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think actors, non-actors, what we get on the screen, I think, is really powerful and empowering, whether it's, acted or not. Let's move into, I think, one of the more enjoyable aspects of this movie, which is the production of it all, like the filmmaking, the cinematography, the look of it. So I don't know if you enjoyed it as much as I thought you would, but I thought after watching it and just visually, I thought that you'd really dig this movie.
I mean, it's everything I love in landscape.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning, but there's a lot of people that haven't driven through the West and seen how vast some unpopulated areas are. And there's nothing that looks like it anywhere I've been.
Yeah.
Like the vastness, there's, that's what I really enjoyed that they captured.
Yeah. No, I agree.
The epic winter desert landscape in that part of Arizona.
Right.
Which, I don't know, it's just gorgeous, man. I really enjoyed the Badlands footage, too.
Oh, me too. Me too. And it was also interesting, too? So, yeah, we have all that beautiful desert landscape. Once she gets over to California, you're expecting the sunshine. We don't get the sunshine. We get pouring rain off of PCH. Yeah. And there was something kind of refreshing about that.
We don't see that part of California.
No, we don't get it very often.
We live in the bone dry part.
Yeah. But, I've driven PCH, a dozen times. And
really?
The
whole way?
No, not the whole way. Been on it.
Okay.
At least in segments of it. And I have this visual memory of PCH, and that's not the memory I usually get. At least with the certain points that I've traveled on. And so just to see that on camera, I really liked it. I thought that it was like the very beginning when she's in Nevada, where you get the snow in the desert. Like that's something we usually don't get
high desert.
Yeah, we usually don't get that imagery on film. It's always very much like, the cookie cutter, like it's dry, it's hot.
Yeah.
And so the same thing when she gets onto the California coast, I like that too, where it's like it's not all sunshine. We get the rain and the contrast between the ocean and the gray sky. I don't know. Maybe I'm nerding out too much about the artsy-fartsy part of it, but I thought it was really nice.
No, it's you're nerding out because they actually shot there. That's the hack, like all of these locations, they shot there. Like those van shots of her driving through the middle of nowhere, Nevada, that's where they shot it,
Yeah.
All the stuff in Arizona, that's there. The Badlands stuff, that's there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the difference. Because those landscapes are, to be as cliche as possible, breathtaking,
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. We usually talk about FX and stuff like that. I'm happy to say there's none in this movie. Don't need it. And like I said, I think in terms of style and look, aside from like the landscapes and stuff, I did get a very documentary-like vibe to the shooting style. So I dug like all the really close, intimate shooting that we get, especially in the van.
I bet it wasn't very expensive to film.
No, and did you get the sense too, like, so usually big productions, you have like multiple cameras and stuff. I always got the sense that they were shooting with one camera.
Yeah, there was a lot of follow.
Yeah.
Follow camera, single shot.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there were cuts, obviously, but I never felt like they had more than one camera at a time.
Maybe, they went full Nomad and the film crew was in one van and she was rocking the other van and they just did it.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe that's why it's so fucking authentic feeling.
Yeah. They're like, all right, we're going to film you living in this van. We're going to live there too. And we're just going to roll.
And they did the journeys, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Probably not, right? But they probably went to all of these locations throughout the year.
Yeah.
And did it. I don't know.
Yeah, massive kudos to Chloe Zhao, like the director of this film. She's from Beijing, China.
Is this a big old studio production or something? Let me see.
No, this is a Fox Searchlight, so they do a lot of indie films. So smaller budget, but it is backed by Fox.
Yeah.
So it's, you get that. So well done.
Total indie film.
So yeah, Chloe Zhao, excellent job. And I'm going through some of her filmography. Like I gotta dive into some of these movies. I haven't seen any of her past work before watching this, so Can't wait. Oh, and it looks like she's attached to the Eternals. That's right. So she's doing a Marvel film.
What's the Eternals?
Super ultra powerful Marvel comics beings, even more so than the standard heroes. So that would be a trip to watch. Like after a movie like this, getting able to see her like play with some big money. I'm curious to see how that would work out.
Big money.
Yeah. All right, here's another part of the movie that I actually really enjoyed and I thought was there enough and very powerful was the score. So for me, if I'm remembering correctly, it was all like piano.
There's a lot.
Just like piano. And it
And
had this
there's
very
a fair amount of diegetic.
Yeah, a lot of diegetic music too. But the actual like non-diegetic score had like this very classical piano vibe. And I do feel like it was put in, I don't know, it seems sparing to me, like in the places that it was put.
It seemed to me as if they didn't over dramatize the piano. It was very in tune with kind of like this middle road messaging.
Yeah.
Type. Like they didn't like there wasn't any one point where I was like, oh man, the music is really trying to convey that she's going through some shit.
Yeah, but at the same time it wasn't like dead silent where it's like yeah, we want you to hear like the sounds of crickets and stuff. So yeah, I would agree. And I felt like the places where the score was, they were those moments where like you're on Fern and she's either walking or like you're up on her face or she's looking, you get to see like first person what she's looking at, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that's where score can help. And I would think there's this like temptation to fill this film with score because there's not a whole lot of dialogue.
Right.
But they don't ever do that.
They're patient enough with it and hold it back enough to where it doesn't overwhelm. And it really gives you the time to think and process, because that's what this movie does. It makes you recognize all of these issues and think about them the whole time, kind of while she is thinking about them.
Yeah.
It's interesting, man. Easily could have blown it out with the score to try and fill space.
Yeah.
And another thing I enjoyed is they did capture quite a bit of natural sound.
Oh, yeah.
In these landscapes with like the winds and stuff.
Right.
Which is a big part of being out there.
Yeah, for sure. It's all like, it all goes back to that like being authentic in the documentary style and giving something that's really real world while also being narrative and being fictional. She just did so well. She did so well navigating both those worlds into one package. All right. Well, we've reached the point, as we always do each week, of love-hate time. So I think there's a lot to love about this movie. We kind of, spoilers.
Big gushing.
Yeah, a lot of gushing. So let's just hammer it out then. So what do you got for your love-hates?
I love the landscapes, man.
Okay.
I love the landscapes, and I love that they presented this issue, like the overarching issue, the financial side of it. That's what I loved a lot about it. I didn't hate anything.
Okay, cool.
But just like the fact that they highlighted so many issues without screaming it at you.
Yeah.
In any one direction, I thought was really smooth and kind of a slick way.
Yeah.
Of presenting it is cool. And it touches, I don't know, I think from like a relatability standpoint, like basically anybody can get something from it.
Yeah.
Maybe not young kids, but that's about it.
Agreed.
What about you?
All right, so my love for this movie, aside from all the other ones that I was already talking about, I liked how it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid of fiction and nonfiction. And I liked how well that the film is able to set up a story that feels completely grounded and real and just very human. And that can get really heavy really fast. And while there are some heavier moments in this film, not too heavy, I feel like it also has rewatch value. Like this isn't one of those films for me where I'd be like, all right, I got through that once. I don't think I could ever go back again and rewatch it because it's so heavy. I think this film is something I could go back to at some point and watch it and get something out of it again. What about you? Like, just out of curiosity, I know we are already kind of wrapping up, but
No, I mean, I could watch it again. I don't really feel like I need to.
yeah.
But
Would it be something that would be hard for you to watch again?
no,
I guess is a question.
no.
Okay.
I'm kind of down the middle of it. Like I totally liked it and got everything, and I appreciate all the topics that they touched.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be hard for me to watch it again. It's not like it's that fucking heavy.
Yeah, okay.
And in all honesty, I think that's kind of like the message from Swanky's standpoint. Right? Like you can choose to be sad and depressed about all of this, or
Yeah.
you can choose the feeling you get when you look out of your van when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
You know? You can choose to have that be how you're feeling. So
Yeah. Yeah, well put.
that's how I feel about watching it again.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, I couldn't agree more. And like you, there's nothing about this film that I hate. I think I got a lot out of it, and I think I even grew to like it more after talking about it with you. So yeah. That's my take on it anyways. So let's
It's hold on, it's up for
Okay.
awards, right?
it has a ton of like little awards that it's been considered for. I'm sure this is going to be a heavy hitter once Oscar season comes, once the Oscars
When
come
is
around.
that?
That's
Soon,
pretty
right?
soon, yeah. Like I can see this being nominated for multiple awards.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you this. If this film doesn't get a Best Director, Best Actor nomination, like what the hell is the Academy for?
Yeah. I think it's going to be tough.
I mean, there's a lot of good ones out there.
We've done a lot of good movies lately.
Yeah. I mean, this could be a season that's loaded too again. But we'll see. But yeah, I think just the fact that this movie's getting a lot of hype even from smaller award shows and festivals, that's going to put it on the radar, I think, of the Academy for sure. But we'll see.
All right. Well,
But forget those awards. Let's get into our awards.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
all right, what do you
go first?
Okay, you want me to go first? I think for all the reasons we laid out, I mean, story plot I thought was completely original and clever. The acting, even though like there's maybe 2 actual like Screen Guild type actors in this film, it's fantastic. Even from those performances, quote unquote, that were from normal folk, non-actors.
Yeah.
Very, very genuine and authentic. Cinematography was gorgeous. The score I really liked. There was something deep about having like this open-ended classical vibe to the piano at times. That gets a point. And I really enjoyed it. So, I mean, across the board, it gets points for me. I have to give this movie a 5.
All right.
5 buckets of popcorn.
Yeah. Can't shit on any aspect of it. And I want to highlight the regular folk on the acting side.
Yeah.
Super genuine, and yeah, everything. The story, I'm giving it a point for because it's not complex, and it's just like a crazy relatable story for a lot of people, and not just the main storyline with Fern, the whole themes that they're touching on.
Yeah.
So cinematography, of course, I said I love these landscapes, and actually filming on location in these landscapes is why it's so awesome. And the score I'll give it to, because it could have easily overdone it and ruined moments I think, but it didn't. And the feels,
Yeah.
definitely touched on a bunch of issues, a lot of stuff, a lot of good conversation out of it. Like it highlights so many things. So it's a 5er,
Nice.
5 bong loads, but I've given out 3 5s this year already, so I really got to pull the reins back.
Do you remember what the movies were that you gave 5s?
Yeah, Promising Young Woman,
Oh, right.
News of the World, and
News of the
this.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm cool with it because, like, I was thinking about it.
Well-
Right when we started the podcast, I gave some 5s out early on because we did a bunch of bangers right before
Yeah.
the Oscars.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
kind of what's happening again.
Well, all 3 of those films that you just listed off, I know are getting buzz. So it's going to be
Yeah.
an interesting awards show, I think, with which films get a nod or not. But yeah, so that's all I got, man. You have any other thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So this whole kind of nomad conversation
Yeah.
with the vans, I've always felt that America should have like a free range human zone
Oh, okay. Yeah.
where they set aside like a pretty big chunk of wilderness. And
Yeah.
if you want to go live a kind of prehistoric lifestyle, you can.
Yeah.
And I like that this, like, not that anybody besides me is going to think of that watching this movie. But I've been dreaming about that my entire life. Like, how cool would it be if they actually destigmatized it and this whole diatribe that the Nomad Messiah goes on about money, you know,
Yeah.
and being kind of like a prisoner of the dollar, having it be legal for people to go somewhere and give it a shot
Yeah.
would be cool, in my opinion.
I was working up a name in my head for this area, and I was just thinking, oh, the destigmatized zone, but then that could lead to a bunch of problems. So
Yeah, and there's so much open land out west. Like, every
Yeah.
state could have one.
yeah.
And I wonder if it would get, like, overrun, right? Like, so many people attempt and do, I don't know,
Yeah.
become successful at that lifestyle.
It'd be interesting, yeah. Or I mean, at least like BLM 2.0 or something like that, where it's
Right?
like, yeah,
Okay.
something at least like that.
Where you get some type of permit
Yeah,
or something, you sign up for this program, and you're like this whole BLM district, you're free to roam and
yeah,
hunt and gather.
yep, yeah. I could see something like that for sure.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. So cool. I mean, it's essentially the Homesteader Act, but this is what I'm talking about
Yeah.
is different.
I get you.
Like, not living off the land that you develop, but truly living off the land, just hunter-gatherer roaming around.
Yeah,
That'd be so cool if there was an area where it was kind of legal.
yeah, that'd be super interesting.
I guess you kind of can do that on BLM right now,
Can you?
but you can't harvest the land like that, right?
You can hunt on the land though.
You can hunt if you have the permits for the hunting, I imagine.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't think you can just kill whatever you want on BLM
Yeah.
land. I'm pretty sure you can park in a van there, but I don't think you can just shoot anything you want.
Yeah, I hope not.
You can shoot wherever you want, but
Yeah,
I don't know, this free range human zone that I'm talking about would have to be no guns. Like, if you're gonna go for it,
yeah,
there's no cell phones, there's no, no guns. It's true old
Yeah.
style.
Would you mandate a bucket rule or out in the wilderness rule?
Pooping?
Yeah,
I guess you would only have to address it if people started grouping quite frequently, like large groupings of people.
yeah.
I don't know.
No, that'd be a super interesting idea. Yeah. Dang.
That's all I got on
All right, I like that. I like that. Well, this was a good one, I think. So yeah, it was episode 62 of The Buff and the Blazer. We talked a little bit about Nomadland, and just in case you didn't get it from our show, I mean, we really like it, and it's on Hulu right now to
Hulu.
stream. So if you have Hulu, give it a watch. I think a lot of people can get something out of this movie, and it's there's something really beautiful about it. So I think it would be worth your time. But yeah, so everyone have a good week, and that's all we have for you on The Buff and the Blazer. We will catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.